Project 1.8 is called Build a Body, and Build a Body basically goes on activities 1.1 through 1.7. It takes a lot of those skills and asks you to put them all together in order to make this project. Please understand that this project will be more challenging than the previous activities that you've done. It will take some time. It will also take a lot of troubleshooting. It will take some kind of thinking outside the box on how to make the app truly work the way it's supposed to. Essential questions, you all have seen this before. What does effective teamwork look like? If you have a partner that you've been working with and it's going really well, you can continue working with that partner. If it hasn't been going well, probably at this point, this would be a good time for you to break off and get things figured out. Here's resources, and all these resources you can download. Put those right in your Google Drive. It's a safe spot to save it. Build a Body rubric. Click on it, check through the different criteria. Organ system descriptions. This can be helpful if you're adding something extra into your project. Here's the AIA file that you have to download and use. Here's the form, Build a Body peer feedback form. This is going to connect with PowerSchool Learning. There's a question or a couple questions in there that deal with what did somebody else say about your app. So you're going to build the app, you're going to test the app yourself, then you're going to give your app to somebody to play and interact with, and you're going to be able to use this form for some feedback. Build a Body app design requirements. You have to understand what this app has to be able to do in order to make it truly work. General help and hints, that's something you can look through. Most people, when they get to 1.8, they really understand how the code works and they understand how App Inventor works as well. Here's the design process, and the design process is something that's an engineering process. So you define the problem, so you're looking at what do I have to understand, or what is the problem for this activity. I'm going to generate some concepts. Now this can go back up. If I generate concepts and it goes back to the problem, I'm going to start generating new concepts. Once I have some concepts developed, I'm going to figure out a solution. What do I need to do? I'm going to build and test, and it's going to go right back up. It might go back up to a previous step or two. I'm going to evaluate the solution. Did it work the way it's supposed to? And then if it did and everything works, I'm going to present the solution to somebody else. Here's your problem. Now it's going to take all of these pieces right here, and it's going to break them down into different sections. Here's the first part, define the problem. Here's your design brief. Here's why you're creating this specific app. It's a life science teacher, middle school students. Here's your problem. Here's what the app is supposed to be able to do. Now you need to meet those requirements in order to be considered proficient at this app. Include one of the following additional features. So all of these must be included. And then down here there's a couple different possibilities for what else you want to include in order to make your app finished, to be done with it. There's deliverables, how you're going to deliver it, and so forth. There's the rubric, and so forth. Now here's your concepts. Here's where you start to generate the concepts, which requires them to generate multiple solution ideas. There's not one solution in here. It's not like 3 plus 3 in math class. You have one possible solution. This app is going to have multiple solutions to it. Here's your design a solution. This is called the view layer. Now remember, when you're working in App Inventor, there's a view layer, what the customer is going to see, and then there's the blocks, kind of the behind the scenes, the code, which you're responsible for. It's all things you've done before, so read through, understand the sizes, does everything look good? You must be connected at all times for this particular app. You need to be looking at the app on your tablet to see, does the part look correct? When I move it, does it actually move the right way, and so forth. Choose one of the following features to include in your app. Here's 4 possibilities. If you have something else that you really wanted to add into the app instead, feel free to run that past me and let's get some other ideas out there. Student general resources, you can look that up if you need to. Here's the controller layer. How will the user drag? So what are you going to do? You have the different body systems and you have to get them connected to a certain placement. How are you going to drag those? What event handler are you going to use? Remember, decompose means to break it down into smaller parts. This app can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of pieces that go on with it. How are you going to break that down? Build and test your solution. Determine whether you need a new layout. Is something off with that? You need to make sure that you name them appropriately. So when you drag in different components, make sure you're using the camel case. And as we've looked at here, by starting each word with a capital letter. Controller layer. A big part of this app deals with the XY coordinates. And if you don't understand XY coordinates, this can be really difficult. So I'm going to show you where it says original location on screen, location on the body outline. So I'm going to go to my designer view, and right here, I'm going to click on it. So here's the digestive system. This is the original location for the digestive system. It's -2 and 14. Now I'm going to click here. This is considered the placement. So this is the brain placement. The brain placement has its own X, its own Y. So you do need to go through and lay those out. Now here's what that looks like. On the blocks piece of it, initialize global brain placement X and global brain placement Y. Where does it start? Where do I want it to connect? Brain placement X. So the brain placement is this. I click on it. It shows me my X, and it shows me the Y. Now, it might be off a little bit. You do have to test that with your tablet. Initialize global original brain X, original brain Y. So when I click over here, where's the brain? The brain is here. Here's the original X and the original Y. Now, again, the numbers might be off a little bit, and that's okay. It's based off of the tablet. So when you get it connected, how does it look? Does it look correct? If it doesn't, you can change these, but don't change them so much that they don't work. And that's how you would fill this chart out right here. You do need to take the time to fill this out. It makes the app so much easier when you know that. It's just going to take you through taking turns being the driver and the navigator. Now again, this is if you're working with a partner. If you're working by yourself, you are the driver and the navigator. You're going to work through it all by yourself. Here's steps for debugging code. Almost every project that I've seen for 1.8, there's been several bugs. So you do need to go through, follow the debugging steps. You can add comments. Once your code functions correctly, check off the design requirements. So make sure that you go back and check everything off when it does work the correct way. Evaluate the solution. Share your app with another team in your class. This is where you'd walk over, give them the tablet and say, here's my app, please test it out. And then this peer feedback form, this is something you can download and you can ask for some feedback from the other group that you're getting them to test out your app. This is a very real-world skill that you would do. An app developer doesn't just release an app and hope that it works. They spend months and months, even sometimes years, testing before it's released. Present your solution. At this part here, this is where you would actually present it to me. Now, before we stop here, I'm going to give you a couple of hints. Two most common ways to make this work: when brain is dragged and then when brain touch up. Now, if you hover here, it says when the user stops touching the sprite. So basically, when you take your finger up or off of the sprite, then it's going to release that XY. You also need to have it collide with. So the brain, the original brain, when you drag it, I'll show you here. So when I drag the brain, it has to collide with this right here, the brain placement. Now when it collides correctly, I need to enable this to false, to shut it off. If I drag it to the incorrect location, it should automatically go right back here. Now that's the if then else part of your statement. You can also add in, I added in a reset button. You'll want to do a reset button pretty early on because you'll find out when you start to drag these, they all clump together and you can't stop it. When you hit reset, they go back to their original locations. There's a start button that activates your score and your timer, and a solution button is something you could add in if you wanted to. I could click solution and all these go to the correct placement. Also, when you hit reset, wherever they're located, they should come right back here to the original location. That is why it is so important to get all of these set up. Now there's more. There's for the urinary, digestive, and respiratory system. I'm just showing what this looks like for one of the systems. Best of luck, and I can't wait to see what you create.